What is identity? In this video, I'll be going over three main questions. What constitutes an identity? How are stereotypes about race imbricated in stereotypes about sexuality? And how are stereotypes about sexuality imbricated in stereotypes about race? And 3. Are identities performative or expressive of something innate or essential? The responses to these questions shape my primary thesis question, which questions the notion of genuine identity performance. Delving further into the investigation. What precisely constitutes an identity? According to Judith Butler, an identity is a series of acts that one performs over and over again that are informed by a myriad of influences, including the influence of societal norms and cultural expectations. Individual actions interact with outside influences, which create a profound complex, which is partly what the concept of interpolation entails. I introduced Althusser in the first video, but in case you weren't paying attention. Interpolation is a term coined by the philosopher Louis Althusser, who described it as the mechanism through which pre-existing social structures such as family, education, religion, and media constitute individual human organisms as subjects. His interpretation of identity is similar to Butler's, as they both discuss the idea that your identity is made up through everyday practices and interactions that indirectly reinforce social structures, which then reinforce your identity. Although, Althusser says that performances of identity serve ideological structures, which somewhat differs from Butler's interpretation. On one hand, Butler addresses how these performances inform everyday interactions and practices, and Althusser's concepts are more applicable, as they describe how those performances serve the institutions that created them in the first place. Even so, identity is a structure whether it serves something or not. To put it simply, it is a never-ending complex of interaction between how you think you should be acting and how your opinion itself has been shaped by how society expects you to act. Our second question. How are stereotypes about race imbricated in stereotypes about sexuality, and how are stereotypes about sexuality imbricated in stereotypes about race? The videos highlight the intersectionality of race and sexuality, particularly in the context of certain communities where homosexuality is often stigmatized, especially within Black communities. This concept is encapsulated in both videos, as they both have intersections of both Blackness and queerness. In the video about sexuality, one individual discusses his experience coming out.
Yeah, for me, it was just so repressed because my dad was super homophobic and, which happens a lot in the Black community. So It was one of those things where super heavily protected and guarded. And then it just kind of came to a point in my life where, I realized, this is my life. I need to, do something for myself and not live in that fear. So, of course, I ran away to San Francisco, and that kind of helped me, accept it more.
In these spaces, homosexuality may be deemed as inauthentic because it doesn't align with prevailing notions of masculinity or identity. This rejection of homosexuality stems from societal expectations and cultural norms within these communities. Conversely, being Black also carries certain connotations or challenges in queer communities, relating back to experiences of marginalization and discrimination within them. These experiences can be compounded by intersecting forms of discrimination, where individuals face both racism and homophobia. In the article Courting the Abject, a Taxonomy of Black Queer Rhetoric, written by Collin, the source delves into the experiences of Black queer individuals, particularly focusing on the ways in which language, family dynamics, and vernacular understandings intersect with queerness and Blackness, shaping the experiences of individuals and the performances of their identity. While talking about one's authentic self, Craig says, he interrogates its viability for achieving what he might see as an authentic self. Performing this sanctioned masculinity gives him reflexivity for making conclusions about how gender signifies through language, music, clothing, and how it functions as a mechanism of social control. This idea highlights the intersection between performances of Blackness and queerness, and how individuals feel they can more freely perform different parts of their identities in different spaces. This aligns with the broader theme of the illusion of authenticity and the performative nature of identity, where individuals may strategically perform aspects of their identity to navigate social dynamics and power structures, although it doesn't change the idea that these performances are still reflective of societal structures and influences. This holds significance as it represents a key convergent point between the performances depicted in both of my primary sources, establishing a direct correlation between how individuals perform specific facets of their identity based on the environment that they're in. And our third question. Are identities performative or expressive of something innate and essential? Some may argue that your identity is somewhat expressive of something innate or essential about your being. Through my research, I have discussed my argument with a variety of people, and this aspect of my project is something that almost everybody struggles with. People don't like the idea that every part of themselves could be manufactured. It makes you feel just like everybody else. It feels better to believe that you are in control and there are parts of yourself that come from within. People believe that there are parts of their identity that are innate, as they feel they are intrinsic beings and their thoughts and actions have been informed by internal ideas that society could not have influenced. It couldn't have, right? To explain the inauthentic reality of identity, I want to explore the concepts surrounding social media performance. These videos that I am making exemplify the notion of performance within this realm, and the act of recording them constitutes a performance of my own. Social media serves as a mundane illustration of inauthenticity, as individuals curate their online personas to showcase only select aspects to their followers that they deem as authentic versions of themselves. Contrasting this belief is the skepticism that authenticity can't truly exist in the realm of social media, as it is often viewed as detached from reality. One might argue that these videos, being captured through a camera lens, inherently lack authenticity. However, it's essential to recognize that all human interaction is performance, whether on or off screen. Thus, the presence of a camera may influence the performance to some extent, but it doesn't fundamentally alter the nature of the authenticity within it. If anything, these videos reveal the facets of one's persona that are crafted for public consumption, aspects that are often prepackaged and manufactured, but are always already there. The performances in these videos, so committed to this notion of authenticity, highlight the tension between what feels innate and what is perceived as performative. The act of performance, whether conscious or subconscious, creates the illusion of essence, blurring the line between authenticity and deception. This is why so many people struggle with social media, as they can't tell what is real. But nothing is real. We derive satisfaction from conforming to authenticity in real life and on social media. It gives us a sense of individualism that is within our control. But truly, there is no way to escape social influence, and innate or essential viewpoints of identity still stem from ideas that are forced upon you from early in your socialization process. Thus, while the belief in individual identity may be a cherished human concept, the reality is more fluid and constructed than we care to admit.